Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Days Podcast along with a new video. I would like to say I thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, viewing, watching, and listening. I truly appreciate it. It's been a while. There are more topics and more videos and episodes that I will be working on exclusively on Patreon and Spotify and on here as well. And I won't hesitate to start memberships too, as far as with YouTube once we get there. We are still, going strong, so we're going to continue moving forward. And I do also appreciate the views and likes as far as for the mixes I've been making. I'm not really looking to get monetized on them. They're more just for fun. They're more just on the sense of just hearing things. I'm not looking to have any copyright ownership of them. If they need to be removed, I will remove them. However, I just enjoy art. And that's why I use my voice in the sense of making content that does not need to have restrictions, not needing to have any background music, just you guys getting the authenticity of day. Because there's just all these people saying this, that, and that. No, you don't need this extra music. You don't need all this extra stuff. Just listen to somebody actually talking. Someone actually there, just someone actually giving a care about what you're doing, and someone caring about what. I'm being silly, y'all. What I'm saying here is, I value the time that you guys give me, which is why I do this content. So thank you again. We are going to talk about the Disney Renaissance. Yes, we are. A time that I came into and was really, really saying to myself, please don't end, because it was just so good. And then things changed. But we are going to talk about it. So the Disney Renaissance was a period between 1989 to 1999, during which Walt Disney feature animation returned to producing commercially and or critically successful animated films. The 10 feature films associated with this period, there was 10. Oh my god. The 10 feature films associated with this period are The Little Mermaid, The Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan. I'm sorry. I just literally just spoke my whole childhood, most of it, because I gotta say, not to really give out my age, but then again, I'm 31, so yes, I will own it. Yeah, Lion King and on is what I can say I was alive for. But I've embraced The Little Mermaid, The Rescuers, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. Of course, my sister, who is, a bit older than me, not too much older, but, she, pioneered these movies with me, along with my mom and other people in my life, most of them family and friends, all of them damn near, but you know what I mean. But the films were mostly musical adaptations of well-known stories, similar to the films produced by Walt Disney from the 1930s to 1960s. The resurgence allowed Disney's animated films to become a powerhouse of successes at the domestic and foreign box office, earning much greater profits. So there's this history behind this where, let me read into this. Following the deaths of Walt Disney and Roy O. Disney in 1966 and 1971, so Walt, wow, okay. He is the father of Roy E. Disney. Walt Ellis Disney. So wait a minute, is that his dad? Or is that his brother? I'm sorry, that's important to know. Like, are they related? Well, we know Walt Disney was a Sag, so that explains why everything is very much with no limits here as far as. Well, wait a minute, hold on. He got 2 kids, and 26 Academy Awards, 3 Golden Globes, 1 Emmy Award. Okay. He got 26 Oscars. Yes. That is my number, 26, okay? Yeah, wait a minute. I'm trying to see if they were related. Because, I just would like to know. Yes, he is the co-founder with his younger brother, so they were brothers. That's why I was like, is that his brother? Or was that his father? Like, I didn't know. So yeah, that's his, they were brothers. They were brothers. But Walt really, was holding it down. But to see his brother go on 5 years prior to him, just, that's, wow. But yeah, they're from Chicago, okay? And brought everything to life in California. But yes, good to know for you guys. If you guys didn't know about as far as Walt Disney and his brother, they, brought us Disney together, along with other people. And we could look into Walt Disney and who he was as a person, but we'll go into that with a whole new video. But and the thing is, yeah, while certain films such as The Rescuers, 1977, were commercially and critically successful, on the whole, the films released over the 18-year period following the death of the Disney brothers did not perform as well as the studio's previous work. One issue with the Reitherman was determined to produce only family-friendly material, certain to turn a profit, and consequently, he softened Disney villains so that they were more comical or pitiful than scary. And that was going on during the 80s. So they had to really shift the sense of how villains were. And following the box office failure of the PG-rated The Black Cauldron. Oh wow, wait a minute. The future of the animation department was in jeopardy. Yeah. I've heard of the Cauldron, but the Black Cauldron, but I didn't know what it was exactly. And quite a dark fantasy adventure film. It just, I never got to really get into these characters and know what this movie was about. And quite honestly, it back then I don't think anyone was really knowing, because it was a box office bomb, grossing just $21 million against a budget of $44 million. They put so much money into this particular film, and they didn't release it until 1997. It has since gained a cult following. So it's not like those that did like it, they felt like it could have been supported more. And so when it actually did get released, in a sense, later on, it just was like, well, you know what? Why ain't nobody really supporting it more now and seeing what it could have been from then? And it's like, well, I mean, that's a lot of movies. That's a lot of, that's a lot of them out there. Sometimes they leave things as what they are and what they were, But yeah, that's interesting to know. The Great Mouse Detective, Disney versus Don Bluth, Hayao Miyazaki's influence. And Oliver and Company. Okay, yes, because listen, leading up, things were starting to get a little shifty around here. Disney released The Great Mouse Detective, and then there was American Tail. See, American Tail outperformed The Great Mouse Detective. Okay, and that was back in '86. and became the highest grossing animated film to that date. And I remember American Tail, they played that down on Warner Brothers as far as when it came to Cartoon Network. You couldn't tell me on certain weekends like now where they would talk about, all right, well, you're gonna have American Tail, you're gonna have what was the Oliver's Company, that Oliver and Company, that actually they would play that so seldomly on Disney Channel, but when it actually played, I watched it because it just was like, they didn't often play movies that were, from like in the late 90s, because I don't want to shift too much, but like at a certain time, they were starting to not rerun certain movies and rerun certain shows. Like they really was starting to push the whole new sense of things, and I guess that's where it makes me a real millennial, because I watched it happen. I watched the sense of coming into time and space of the world where it was like, okay, and I'm speaking based off me being 94. If you're 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, that's great. I love y'all, and y'all got to see a bit more than what I got to. But I gotta say, by 94, even seeing 95 and 96, I got to really look back at what I didn't get to really experience in the matter of those few years as opposed to 97, because everything was still rerun, everything was still fresh, and even as opposed to, even if things were canceled, there was those that would understand that at that time it didn't seem that way, because everybody was still doing, other things, and there was movies that were coming out, so it was like everything was either staying or going in the midst of when I was growing up. And it wasn't too hard to adapt to, but it was almost like, wow, is this really? But I'm doing this over a phone. In the time of me growing up, you had to have a camera that actually recorded, as opposed to taking photos. And those weren't cheap then, and they're not really cheap now. So, you get what you can capture, right? But I am grateful. But yes, not to get too much off topic, but yeah, Oliver and Company in 1988 would later be released on the same day as The Land Before Time. So yeah, Disney was battling, and then once they got their window, that was it. But they was battling, because when I'm looking at certain movies, because this is Warner Brothers too. Wait a minute, is it Universal? I think they both Universal. American Tail and Land Before Time. Oh my God, Land Before Time. Oh Judith. Oh Judith. If y'all don't know who Judith is, you better look up who Judith is. Judith Barcy. Barcy or Barcy. Justice for Judith. Oh, Judith. And it ain't even something that I recently realized. I gotta say this, we ain't even going, just justice for Judith, okay? Oh my God. I only say justice for Judith because it just, we this is about Disney Renaissance. We ain't going into the Universal, and is this Universal? Let me just look, okay? Sorry, y'all. I can't see where this is from. Where directed, let me just see, edited, distributed. Yes, Universal. Okay, yeah. So Universal was not playing with nobody in the late 80s, okay? They weren't playing. Universal was like, bitch. Yep, they both Universal, and they were both released 2 years apart in the same week, okay? They said this is working. Disney said, well, listen, we gonna figure it out. But despite The Land Before Time becoming globally the highest grossing animated film to that date, breaking the previous record of American Tail, like I said, Oliver and Company outgrossed it in the United States, launching an era of increased theatrical turnout for Disney. So even though globally, The Land Before Time was doing really well, and as it should have, because y'all know what happened in the first 20 minutes. I'm not talking about it, but y'all know what happened, and that to me, as at a child's age, and as a child, the inevitable is the inevitable, and when you kind of look at it so young, it's an easier blow, unfortunately, as opposed to when you're an adult. Because when you're an adult, it's like, oh my god, okay, wow. Some people are that, lighthearted, maybe not be as empathetic, but then when it hits close to home, that's where it's just you try to avoid, or you try not to have it be something that you don't want it to happen. But then again, when it hits close to home, you really look around and be like, well, you know what, this is really what's going on here. But not to get too sad, because this is the Disney Renaissance, okay? But yes, Oliver and Company did really well as far as in the United States over time, and that's what kind of gave them the sense to be like, listen, we got to really shift this here. We need to have themes going on, more themes, and it makes perfect sense. They needed to have more themes. So yeah. To produce Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, Steven Spielberg. Oh, that was also back in 1988. Yeah. The 2-minute climax scene used computer-generated imagery. CGI making the... Oh, wait a minute. What am I reading? The Disney Renaissance was prompted by competition, along with the evolution of overseas animation, most notably the Studio Ghibli anime productions from Japanese animator Hayao Miyazaki. His Lupin the Third film adapted the animated TV series based on the Monkey Punch comics, influenced the climax of The Great Mouse Detective, which in turn paved the way for the Disney Renaissance. So, yeah, we got the Disney Renaissance based off of Studio Ghibli. It's because of them. The 2-minute climax scene used, yeah. There was CGI for The Great Mouse Detective, I believe. Yeah. So, this is where The Little Mermaid began. Okay, all right. So, when they started doing The Little Mermaid, and yeah, they go into detail where they let you know as far as with the music, and yeah, they wanted to make an animated musical much like any other of his previous animated movies, but more with Broadway feel. That sounds right. They wanted to give us more of a Broadway feel with the Little Mermaid, and yeah. It felt like a show as you watched Ariel, kind of, not a show, but like a Broadway show, if you will. Like it felt like I'm watching someone go from scene to scene in their life, wanting to be human and going through all these obstacles. But even when I looked at The Little Mermaid, from being on a nice trip to Disney on Ice, you kind of see them transition from costumes and riding on the ice, and it gives a nice representation of a show. So it's like it's good that they captivated that into a movie, especially animated. Yeah, upon release, The Little Mermaid was a critical and commercial success and garnered a higher weekend gross than All Dogs Go to Heaven. Okay, so it did better than All Dogs Go to Heaven, which was released on the same day. Okay, so I gotta say, this is where the things started. Is that from Universal too? Let me make sure. Hold on. Let's see. MGM. That's from MGM. Now MGM, isn't that distributed from? I think MGM is similar to I don't want to say it's similar, but I thought it was with Universal too. I be seeing MGM, but I think MGM is its own thing. Excuse me. Yeah. Hold on. I thought it was from Universal. But I mean, MGM is MGM, okay? Yes, so not to get too much into different movies as opposed to the history of them all. Yeah. Eventually breaking the Land Before Time's record of highest grossing animated film. So, Land Before Time was sitting strong, being the highest grossing, and then The Little Mermaid came and wiped that away. And to be honest with you, there needed to be a bit more of a happier movie to kind of embrace at that time. There was a lot going on in the late 80s, I'm sure. So, with that being said, The Rescuers and The Rescuers, Down Under, and Beauty and the Beast. So 1990 and 1991. Listen, The Rescuers had mainly a positive reception, but it wasn't as financially successful as The Little Mermaid, of course, because people, they was already too much involved with Ariel at this point. They loved The Rescuers Down Under. But, of course, there needed to be another princess. So, Beauty and the Beast was Disney's next film and proved to be an immense critical and commercial success. It was the first animated film nominated for an Academy Award. Okay, remaining the only animated film nominated for the Best Picture when that category had only 5 entries between 1944 and 2008, and won the Golden Globe Award for Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Yeah. And 2 Academy Awards for Best Original Score and Best Original Song. Beauty and the Beast also received an Academy Award nomination for Best Sound, as well as 2 additional nominations for Best Original Song. Yeah, it was the first animated film to reach 100 million at the box office in the U.S. The box office success also gave way to a profitable merchandising campaign. In 1994, it was the first Disney Renaissance film to receive a Broadway adaptation. It did so well that by the time 1994 came, they brought it straight to Broadway. They said, we need to have this in New York. We need to have this out here where people could watch it and have it be dramatized in a sense to where they could see it live rather than it being animated. They was not playing. Which leads us to Aladdin and The Lion King. So Aladdin and The Lion King followed, respectively, with both films having the highest worldwide grosses of their respective release years. Aladdin was the highest grossing animated film at the time of its release, but later became second after being surpassed by The Lion King, okay, which became the highest grossing animated film at the time and remains the highest grossing traditionally animated film in history. So Aladdin and Lion King are like, Lion King's right here, but Aladdin's like, it's the way that financially grossing and highest grossing, however they want to say it, Aladdin from Beauty and the Beast was just like, oh my God, like it just keeps getting better. And then when it just was like The Lion King, it was like similar to, the blow of how we feel about Judith when it comes to even the sense of the same type of aspect, because I'm not even alluding here, that's just real life of what Justice for Judith. Anyway, the realization of what happens in the first 20 minutes of Land Before Time is similar to what goes on in The Lion King, except it's the father. Okay, it's just like I can't make this up, but yeah. And then in real life, there was actual songwriters that wrote for these movies. Some of them are here and some of them are not. And so that's why if you're wondering, like, there's certain songs back in the day when it came to certain movies that was hitting, it's because them songwriters were hitting them right, and they was going off. And now that there's different writers out there, and the magic it's not the same. It's not. But it's okay. That's why it's a renaissance. That's why you get to captivate the time and look at it for what it is. But yes, A Whole New World. Can you feel the love tonight? Elton John, okay. Yeah. Between the two in-house productions, Disney diversified in animation methods and produced a stop-motion animated film, The Nightmare Before Christmas. And y'all thought I wasn't going to talk about that too? Oh no, that's in there. With former Disney animator Tim Burton, which was directed by also former director and Disney animator Henry Selick. That film received an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects, becoming the first animated film to do so, losing to Spielberg's 1993 film Jurassic Park. Okay, so if y'all wanted to know why The Nightmare Before Christmas didn't pop off the same way that Aladdin and The Lion King may have did and could have even went further with, if they kind of did with Lion King 2 and Aladdin 2, and but that was why that was why we didn't get to see The Nightmare Before Christmas grow a bit further, because Universal came right back in 93. Okay, they said, all right, well, you got 92, but 93 we about to steal this. Okay. But see, when Disney came back by 94, they were battling. And y'all don't want me to talk about DreamWorks. That's a whole nother video. Because see, when DreamWorks came by the late 90s, listen, these film streets are just as petty as the music ones. Do not get into it. I'm sorry. We gonna make this video in episode real nice and cohesively smooth, so you guys can look back. I don't want to make it too long, because we still got to get back to 95 up until listen. We still got more to talk about, but yes, yes, Jurassic Park. Yeah, I can understand. Yes, by 95, the next animated film, Pocahontas, 1995, opened to mixed reviews, though it still earned $346 million worldwide and garnered 2 Academy Awards for Best Original Musical or Comedy Score and Best Original Song, Colors of the Wind. However, its box office gross was far lower in comparison to what The Lion King earned the previous year. Well, yeah, there was more singing and more, it wasn't as focused on a young girl wanting a grown man. Similar to The Little Mermaid, and, I wouldn't say that Belle was as young, but you guys get what I mean. It was more enjoyable to watch a young cub grow and realize that when you lose things, you gain them too. That's... yeah. Anyway, the following year, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1996. Okay, listen, there was some movies. Disney's first animated film produced at a budget of over 100 million, opened to better reviews than Pocahontas, but at a lower total box office of 325 million. Both films feature composer now serving as only lyricist to Stephen Schwartz. Okay, that they both had composers for that same. They had the same composer for two different movies, but yes, those two movies, even though they didn't do as well, it made money. Still, they shifted the expectations a bit on what would come from Disney as a whole when Hercules came. Okay, so I can't say that wasn't a bad thing in the Renaissance era, because that, you got to think about Toy Story and all those other movies that was coming out in the mix that was from other animations, because Disney wasn't just working as Disney, they had other but yes, Hercules earned 252 million, 73 million less than The Hunchback of Notre Dame at the box office. News media began to openly suggest that Disney Animation was on a downward trend of their animated films. Yeah. Although it gained more positive criticism than Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, it was still vulnerable to competition from companies such as DreamWorks and Pixar. So this is where it starts to get real, because like I said, this is getting towards the late 90s now, and Disney's penultimate, I think that's what they're trying to say. In other words, Mulan, with a score by Jerry Goldsmith and songs by Matthew Wilder and David. These people the movie earned 304 million at the worldwide box office, restoring the commercial and critical standing of Disney's output. So in other words, Mulan saved what Hercules was making sure that they could hold, as opposed to Pocahontas and Hunchback of Notre Dame being, the sense of, look at what we also have. Because Lion King was really like the standard, in a sense of like, okay, you are really out here, Disney, but we're not going to forget this one. The release of Tarzan is retrospectively seen as the end of the Renaissance era. And that was back in 99, with a score by Mark Mancina and songs by Phil Collins. Protect Phil Collins. Y'all don't appreciate enough people, okay? I'm saying that because there's too many people that y'all appreciate that just do too much drama, as opposed to actual just artists and people that just was in the studio or had their instruments. They just was whether it was editing, filming, singing, whatever. There was more art that was really put hours and hours and days into, and y'all ain't looking at that enough. I'm sorry. I will be one of those people that will put it back out there, but it needs to be talked about. Tarzan won an Academy Award for Best Original Song. You'll be in my heart. Oh, they won a song for that. And became Disney's most commercially successful film since The Lion King, earning 448 million at the box office and widespread positive reviews. And I'm gonna be honest, I used to get a little teased because I like Tarzan, and maybe because you got a nice movie about, and I'm not saying whether he's black, white, whatever the case may be. It's just a movie about self exploration, considering the fact that like I said, it's not about anything about race or anything like that. It's more of a sense of, like I said, self exploration, where it's like, wow, like his parents were murdered by a leopard, jaguar, however you want to call it, leopard, it was murdered, okay? And he was raised by you know, gorillas, animals, if you will, and you know, an uninhabited area, you know, and you have this this father and daughter who are, you know, they're from London, and they go out overseas, and they feel like they're on a journey to just go and explore and document and take pictures of different animals, and they're not realizing that they're being used for a project to get fur, you know, and you know, hurt animals, and to, you know, they didn't know that Clayton was somebody that was trying to do that with people on the ship. You know, even people on the ship was trying to understand what was going on. They were like, well, wait a minute now. I know we got some people that, you know, are supposed to protect y'all, but are they really protecting y'all, or are they protecting themselves? Okay, so a lot of treachery going on. But anyway, like I said, as far as with critical and public response, most of the Disney released in the Renaissance era were all received, well received, according to review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes. 6 of the movies, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Mulan, and Tarzan, garnered approval ratings of over 85%, with the first 4 being referred to by Roger Ebert as the Big Four in 1997, and they were the Big Four. Pocahontas has the lowest reception of Disney's Renaissance films. It averaged 54% positive reviews. They were not feeling Pocahontas. But as far as listen, okay, as far as when it came to cinema and score, by Beauty and the Beast, it was A+ and A's all across the board. You know, the Pocahontas got an A, but an A-, okay? The Hunchback of Notre Dame got an A. Hercules got an A. Mulan got an A+, and Tarzan got an A. The Lion King got an A+. Okay, so that's why I resonate with The Lion King and Tarzan in a sense, because they both got A+. And Mulan too, because she got an A+ as well. Well, I relate to Mulan because it got an A+ too as well, as opposed to Aladdin too. You know, them two matter. Well, those two matter, I should say. But as far as Tarzan having an A and Hercules having an A, okay, you know, they stand alone. They held their ground, okay? Because Aladdin was not playing, and Belle wasn't either. Listen, Ariel was the one to make sure. So y'all get it. And yes, they have the years and the time that they were released. Let's look at that. So Little Mermaid, November 17th, 1989. So you know, anyone that was about 10 or even younger than that at that time, you know, I know that this is you know, something for y'all because y'all are in the 40s or going towards it, but still, okay, this was a time. Of course, The Rescuers was a year later, November 16th, 1990. Beauty and the Beast, November 22nd, 1991. So you see, this is a November thing. Might as well make it a November movie, right? But as opposed to the timing, this is a November month too, so why not? Aladdin, November 25th, 1992. So just recently it had an anniversary. Actually, these first 4 movies that I just talked about just had anniversaries. So yes, go off to them, okay? This was the time. And it really had people going because it was cold, okay? So seeing a magical movie, or movies I should say, like these at those times before 94, you know, and it's cold, listen, because see, The Lion King came out June 24th, 1994. So it's straight summer now. It's hot. And this is 94, okay? So millennials were starting to really come in because, you know, this movie was it. And then Pocahontas, June 23rd, 1995. So literally a year later, they was trying to see, you know, like, what's going on with Pocahontas. And then as far as The Hunchback of Notre Dame, that's June 21st, 1996. Okay, so there was some summer movies coming in, actually most of them actually after. So Hercules, June 27th, 1997. Wow, I was literally 3. Um, what a time. Mulan, June 19th, 1998. So I was 4. And then Tarzan, June 18th, 1999. So I literally just turned 5. But yeah, what a time. But I'm happy to have talked with you all about these movies and why they matter. Their soundtracks were doing well as well. I didn't forget about talking about them. Yeah, respectively, they were all released pretty much a year at a time. So, The Little Mermaid, October 19th, 1989. Beauty and the Beast, October 24th, 1991. Aladdin, October 27th, 1992. The Lion King went number 1. That was their first number 1. April 27th, 1994. So I wasn't here yet. I was about to be, literally a month away. But yeah, already went diamond. Pocahontas, June 1st, 1995. That also went number 1. Okay, Colors of the Wind. Listen, they couldn't say that they weren't singing, okay? The Hunchback of Notre Dame, May 7th, 1996. Hercules, May 27th, 1997. So, wow, okay. Mulan, June 2nd, 1998. And then Tarzan, May 18th, 1999. And yes, the singles. A Whole New World went number 1. Yeah, that's the only number 1 out of all the movies that went number 1. Yeah, that's the only one by Peabo Bryson and Regina Bell. That's the only number 1. All the other songs that we love, they all did not go number 1. That's the only one that went number 1. That's the only one the public loved. So take note of that. And that should tell y'all about looking into history and maybe even making these songs resurge. Because a lot of songs somehow be resurging. And quite honestly, respectfully, Michael is and will always Michael Jackson. Okay? But yeah, we've talked about him. Go check out his videos. But like I said, yes, check out his videos along with the videos of my commentary of his videos. So yes, like I said, you guys, this was a great video to look at. And make and enjoy and follow through for you all. I hope. Yeah, I'll be back with more.